Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this week's edition of the Trent Moore Show. And this one is a bit of an annoying one because we're going to be talking about the USMNT, or obviously known as the United States Men's National Team. After we sacked Greg Berhalter, we were looking for a new manager for the longest period of time. We were linked with Zidane. We were linked with Klopp. We were linked with Thierry Henry. All these guys, right, we were linked with. And another one, a very promising eye, and one I think a lot of us wanted, and we ended up getting him, was Maurizio Pochettino. Now, you can easily go ahead and look at these two games versus Panama and Canada and put the blame on Maurizio Pochettino. Whilst there probably is some blame there for him. Of course there is. There should be a lot of blame spread out across the team in general. But we're in a weird spot because, first of all, we're hosting the World Cup of 2026. Us, Canada, and Mexico. We are hosting the beautiful game. And it's beginning to be very apparent. The first thing I'm going to talk about in this one is how apparent it is with the lack of support with the USMNT. Now, I understand every reason. Again, I couldn't go to the game. I think the one game was played in California. I'm on the complete opposite side of the country. Like, I can't go to that, you know? But it's really becoming to be apparent that United States residents, people from the USA, right? There is no drive for it. No drive. The biggest excuse I saw was that March Madness is going on, which I understand. But it almost brought me to a realization that's just like, we're not going to have that backed support when it comes to the actual World Cup. Yes, we will. But when we're in the Nations League playing in these knockout style games, you know, we want to be playing in a sold out stadium. That game against Panama, again, I don't even, let me look this up. All right, let's take a quick look at what we have going on here. Let's do USMNT. Boom. There we go. Let's go to the Panama game and let's take a look at it. It was at the SoFi Stadium, in Inglewood. SoFi Stadium. Capacity. So there is a 70,240 capacity in the SoFi Stadium. Now, I don't even know. There was probably no more than 5,000 people in that stadium. I could be wrong, but from the open eye, it was absolutely atrocious. Now, the one thing I'm going to bring up here is we shouldn't be playing these games in those stadiums, right? We shouldn't be playing those games in the stadiums. Pick out an MLS stadium across the country, Subaru Park, the Colorado Rapids Stadium, any stadium, right? Any stadium. Pick that, right? Not these 70K stadiums, because then you're not going to sell it out. If it's a World Cup game, it's a different story. Pick these smaller stadiums to host these games in. If we host the game in Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati is one of the... Philadelphia, Cincinnati, those are arguably two of the most densely populated football, soccer fans in the United States. And put it there. I think we've had games at Cincinnati before, and the entire stadium's been sold out, you know, in Cincinnati Stadium. It's just that kind of thing, which I don't really understand. The Canada game was also in the SoFi Stadium. They were both in that one. But yeah, pick a smaller stadium, because it is absolutely embarrassing seeing the crowd turnout to those games. It's embarrassing. It, it, it it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And this is straight from the heart, right? This is what this podcast is for. Just kind of say what we want to say. This is straight from the heart. It's absolutely unbelievable, the lack of support with the USMNT. Again, I'm probably one of the very few Americans that would easily choose to go to a USA game over watching March Madness. Like, I like March Madness, but again, that's just how I operate. That's how I roll, And when I see this, I get embarrassed. I'm not even there, and I'm just embarrassed. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, what is going on here? That out the way, let's get on to just the general performance from the USMNT. We go to the Panama game, and we line up. It's like a 3. Here it says a 3-3-4. It was more like a 3-5-1. 3-5-2. It was a very interesting formation because everyone was everywhere. And to be honest, like, Panama lined up. They've always been just a tough team to break down. They're probably in one of their better eras right now in terms of their footballing ability. They have players across Europe in that team relatively. Obviously, Jose Cordoba plays for Norwich. Cesar Blackman, I think, has played in the Champions League this season. They have a solid team now. And definitely a team that has passion, that fights, and isn't easy to beat. We look at this USA team. First of all, Matt Turner. We're going to talk about Matt Turner first. I'm going to go through this starting 11 from the Panama game, and we're going to have a little chat about it because there's a lot of things to discuss, of course. Matt Turner should not be the number one for the USMNT. The main reason I'm saying that is we had Patrick Schulte on the bench, who, yes, he's an MLS keeper. We had Zach Steffen, who is also an MLS keeper. But the thing that both of those goalkeepers have in front of Matt Turner is minutes. Now, in terms of goalkeeping, the rest of the team is a different story when it comes to my opinion about MLS players starting over players who are playing abroad. That's self-explanatory. When it comes to a goalkeeper, Matt Turner has nowhere near the minutes that either of them have this season. Matt Turner should not be our number one. If Matt Turner moves somewhere else and is the first choice starting keeper and has minutes under his belt, then we can talk. But that goal, I think it was Cecilia Waterman, that goal that Waterman scored against Matt Turner in the 94th minute for us to lose 1-0 to Panama in the Nations League, once again embarrassing us, is unacceptable. I would have saved it. And this is probably just anger coming out, but I probably wouldn't have saved it, to be honest with you. I probably wouldn't have saved it, but that's just me getting my anger out. Any confident keeper that is playing minutes will save that. Now, it's not necessarily Matt Turner's fault. He's not playing minutes. You have Dean Henderson in front of him, who is playing very, very well in that Crystal Palace team this season. But Matt Turner shouldn't be the number one. You have to give that to a keeper that is playing week in, week out, consistently. Excuse me. Then we get onto the defense. I understand Pochettino's idea going with Tim Ream. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. Just last year, he was playing Premier League football. Right. This time last year, he was playing in the Premier League. He's in the MLS now, playing against worse opposition. Whilst Ream wasn't the most of our issues, I don't think he should be starting anymore. I do think he should be on the roster to be there for everyone else in it, for the young center backs within the squad, because we have a lot of young center backs. I do think that is something we should do. Austin Trusty obviously hurt. He's not with the roster. We had Cameron Carter Vickers on the bench again. Carter Vickers start over not Weston McKennie, Mark McKenzie start over Tim Ream. We had Joe Scally, who I'm pretty sure has been playing left back for Gladbach this season, who played left center back this game. Again, play McKenzie there. McKenzie is Toulouse's starting center back in Ligue 1. Left center back. Just put Mark McKenzie there. Or Cameron Carter Vickers. Or I would think it would be Austin Trusty if he is fit. So if we're talking about this back line, I would have Chris Richards in the middle. I would have Trusty left center back. And then I would have Cameron Carter Vickers right center back. That's what I would do from here on out. I do not mind the 3 at the back. I will put that out there and I will say it now. I do not mind the 3 at the back. Then we move into the midfield. Again, it has 3 listed here. We had Tanner Tessman, who I'm a fan of, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams. It says Yunus Musa was a forward. Yunus Musa's in the midfield as well. Tim Weah was like the left wing back. Musa was like the right wing back. That's what it was. Again, I'm fine with Weah on the wings. That's where I want him. I do think a wing back system for Tim Weah is the way to go. And if we have Tim Weah on that right wing back and Anthony Robinson at that left wing back, it's a complete different story. And I actually think not having Anthony Robinson in this roster is a huge miss that we don't really realize as much as USMNT fans. He is probably, apart from Pulisic, I think he probably is our second most important player. And saying that for a left back is crazy, but he offers so much for our team. I mean, it's relatively kind of similar to Alphonso Davies for Canada, right? But you have Weah and Anthony Robinson on those wingbacks. We're talking a complete different story here. If Pochettino wants to line up with that 3-5-2, you have those 3 back 3 that I said. So then those 2 wingbacks. And then preferably, we would have a DM in Tyler Adams, right? Weston McKennie and Yunus Musa in that midfield. That's what I want. I don't want Yunus Musa playing on the wing. I don't want Weston McKennie. No. Just no. Right? And then I think when we have a fully fit Pepe, Balogun, and Sargent, I would want them as our 3, and I would want Ajiman to be that 4th choice striker when it comes to like the 4 main strikers that we're gonna pick. I'm always gonna back my boy Josh Sargent. I'm always gonna back him. He wasn't bad. He couldn't really do much in that game. But again, if we're talking what's going on here, I would then just have Christian Pulisic as almost like a false 9 type of player in that cam striker position, just moving around the front line, and then a striker up there, whether that's Sargent, Pepe, Balogun, whoever it is. Based off this season, if he wasn't hurt, I would probably have Ricardo Pepe up there. And then we would have a strong bench, right? We would have a strong bench. There are players out. I forgot about, we're not even talking about Serginho Dest. If Dest is fit, he might play that right wing back, and Pochettino might stick way up front. Like, there's a ton of other things we can take into consideration, or we have that off the bench. In terms of this team, there was zero cohesion. Pochettino, again, it's still the start of his reign as the manager. We have time. He has time to figure it out. I want to see more dedication from Pochettino into this team. Obviously, you can just bring up the fact that he's Argentinian and he's not American, but again, he's in this job for a reason. I am still going to back Pochettino, and I think a lot of it is down to the lack of passion from these players. if you are playing for the United States of America, it's the same as any other country you're playing for. You want to fight for that badge. It's the same for club. You want to fight for that badge. I just wish I saw more. Panama did nothing the whole game. But when they saw their chance, they took it. And their game plan worked. Right? Regardless, I mean, what is the possession? Can we see all this? Where I don't know. It's not gonna. If I scroll down, match facts. I gotta look up match facts for this game. Match facts. Let's see. Don't really know why it's not popping up, but yeah. That's the gist with that Panama game, right? That's the gist with that one. And then we go on to the Canada game. Obviously, I was excited to see Diego Luna again. I am of the belief that if Diego Luna wants to be in this roster, he needs to move to Europe. We can't be playing players from the MLS unless there are young players developing that are in the squad, because they do deserve it. But the next step for Diego Luna, Ajiman, Jack McGlynn, Scholte, the next step for these guys is to move to Europe, because I do think the MLS players that were brought up, apart from Tim Ream and Brian White is purely there just because we have injured strikers right now, and he's been performing in the MLS. That's why Brian White is there. But they need to move to Europe, those guys I just mentioned, and expose themselves. And I think they will do well. But again, so we saw Arts Finn right back, Joe Scally left back, CCV and McKenzie center backs. Again, like, this just shows, it does show that Pochettino is willing to switch it up when he has to. But if you're going to go out with that 3-back system in the first game, you need to stick to it. Stick to the formation you are playing. Stick to it. Again, those two center backs that started, I wish they started with Chris Richards in that Panama game, personally. And then you have McKennie and Adams as those two like center mid DMs. McKennie being that box to box, Diego Luna being that cam. I don't mind it. Again, I don't mind Pochettino having that 4-3-3 in mind. It's okay to have. I do appreciate it. Tim Weah, Pulisic, Ajiman as the forward front three. Again, I don't mind it, right? I don't mind it. Ajiman getting on the score sheet, performed very well. I want him to move away from the MLS, though, and I think he will. I think he is deserving of a move somewhere. I think he would be a baller in the championship, personally. I do think he would do very well there. That's a great place for him to move and develop even more. We saw Jack McGlynn in that first game, came in, didn't really do much. Again, it's a weird spot, and it's very disappointing for the USMNT because, again, we should be expected. For the past few years, we've been dominant over Mexico in the CONCACAF, right? We have not been losing to them. And that was under Greg Berhalter. We are in this golden generation, and we should be winning the Nations League every time, right? Every time we're in it, that has to be an expectation. For us to not even get a win on this international break against Panama and Canada, and it's not even Mexico we're talking about, just isn't good enough. Again, I'm taking into consideration Pochettino didn't have all the players he may have wanted at his disposal, but at the same time, with the amount of players we have that are playing in Europe week in, week out, to Canada's and Panama's, right? You look at the teams, we need to be winning. And again, it's not all down to just the players. It's down to how the players are feeling. They need to feel up for it. If you're representing your nation, you need to give it your all. You can also take into consideration some players might not want to get injured because they're on international break. And when it comes to a big national tournament, it will be a different story, and we will see much more from these players. But It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. I don't know when our next friendlies are. I'm gonna check this out right here. It's probably up. Is it USMNT schedule? Let's see. Schedule and tickets. So I mean, we just had those two games go by. Currently, we have Turkey June 7th and Switzerland June 10th as friendlies. I think these two stadiums we're playing in, the Geodis Park in Nashville, I think that is Geodis Park. I think that is Nashville Stadium, right? Yeah, that is Nashville Stadium. So I like that being there. And then Pratt and Whitney Stadium. Stadium. Let's see. Who plays here? Is that the Connecticut College? That's a pretty big stadium, to be fair. I don't know if we're going to be selling that one out. But the fact that we're playing in Nashville Stadium, I do like. That is smart. But those are the only two games that we have in there so far. I think we'll probably have some games like mixed in there that we're probably still trying to figure out. But yeah, those are my overall thoughts with all this stuff, and it really is frustrating, right? We are growing. We are in this so-called golden generation now. We are growing as a nation when it comes to football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. We are growing, but you want to see more still. You really want to see more. We have a quality manager in Mauricio Pochettino, who I'm going to keep backing, because what else can you do? Not back him. You need to back him. But yeah, that was the Trent Moore Show for this week. A very annoying one, but definitely one that I enjoyed recording and talking about. If you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a comment on this podcast, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube, and let me know your thoughts on the United States men's national team situation. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.